The realm. Do you know what the realm is? It's the 1,000 blades of Aegon's enemies. A story we agree to tell each other over and over till we forget that it's a lie.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back for another Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire update video. In this new video, I will go over every single Game of Thrones show HBO has in development. As you all know, the original Game of Thrones series is still arguably the most successful show in history. Ever since the original show ended over 3 years ago, HBO has been developing a number of new shows based on George R.R. Martin's incredible A Song of Ice and Fire saga. For nearly a decade, Game of Thrones had the hearts and imaginations of millions and millions of fans all around the realm. When you have a show that reaches that level of international success, it would be foolish not to follow that up with another show set in that same universe. And that's exactly what HBO and George R.R. Martin are ready to do. If you have been following all of my videos, then you would know that HBO is working on a lot of different shows since Game of Thrones ended. But how many of those are actually still in development? I'm sure most of you already know they were making a show about the White Walker's origin during the Long Night. It was the first idea they had after Game of Thrones aired its final episode, however, they ultimately decided to go with a different show. Now, a lot of fans are wondering, what other shows does HBO still have in development? What will we see in Westeros or Essos after this? Well, before I get into all of that, I have to let all of you know about this amazing new offer. I would like to thank the sponsor of today's video, Highland Titles. Highland Titles is a very unique gift company that has been around for 16 years, and for less than $50, they can make you a lord or lady. They do this by allowing you to buy a piece of land as small as a square foot in their gorgeous Highland estate. This makes you a legitimate owner of Scottish land, allowing you to claim the title of lord or lady. For years, we have been hearing some of our favorite characters refer to each other as a lord or lady, and now with Highland Titles, you'll finally be able to become one yourself. The best part is that not only will you become a lord or lady, but you'll also be helping to preserve the landscape as Highland Titles manages the land as a nature reserve. Now, according to TripAdvisor, Highland Titles Nature Reserve is one of the most popular nature reserves in the country. As the holiday season approaches, or for any other special event such as an anniversary, HighlandTitles.com allows you to give your loved one an amazing and truly everlasting gift. Once you order your gift from Highland Titles, you or your loved one will receive a personalized official certificate and a beautiful gift package in the mail, as well as access to the online dashboard where you can download your certificate, view images of the land, and if you ever come to Scotland, visit your own little piece of Scottish countryside in the Highland Titles Nature Reserve. This gift already has over 14,000 reviews on Trustpilot with a very high average rating of 4.8 out of 5. By visiting www.highlandtitles.com and using my discount code TT20, you will receive 20% off everything on the site. Don't miss out on this amazing offer. And once again, I would like to thank Highland Titles for sponsoring today's video. Alright, now outside of the main series Game of Thrones and its new successor show House of the Dragon, I think the #1 show that's making the most noise right now is the Jon Snow sequel series. As of right now, I think this show has the most fans behind it because it's directly connected to Game of Thrones. HBO still hasn't made their own official announcement, but what we've heard from Amelia and George R.R. Martin is this show will follow Jon Snow after the events of the original show. Not only is Game of Thrones actor Kit Harington making this show himself with his own writers and directors, but many other actors from Game of Thrones have already went on record saying they would love to come back to Westeros again. So, if this show ever does get made, and we see what is happening with Jon Snow after he was exiled beyond the Wall, we may see some of his old friends and family again as well. I believe this show would be even more successful than House of the Dragon because it would essentially be a Season 9 of Game of Thrones, and as we all know, that was the show that had the most amount of fans. Another show HBO has been developing is known as The Nine Voyages, or The Sea Snake, a reference to the adventures of a young Lord Corlys Velaryon, one of the most famous and richest men of his day. I also think this show has a great shot of getting made now that House of the Dragon has seen so much success with its first season. House of the Dragon is now making Game of Thrones fans familiar with this character, but that series is only showing us what happened later in his life. The Nine Voyages, also known as the Sea Snake, would show us all of the amazing adventures he went on that would eventually give him his name and his family's wealth. I think this show could be a lot of fun because we would finally see all of the other amazing locations all around the realm. HBO has already hired a writer to draw up its first season, but outside of that, they haven't released any new official developments. Another one of the shows HBO has been developing is known as 10,000 Ships, set roughly 1,000 years before the events of Game of Thrones. Now, based on what we know so far, this show would be sort of similar to the Sea Snake, whereas this series would focus on a key figure within Westerosi legend, and that is the founder of Dorne, known as Nymeria. Nymeria, who was an ancestor of the Westerosi House Martell and House Dane, led the refugees to find a new home on Dorne by gathering them onto thousands of ships, although many do believe that number was drastically inflated. Once the fleets arrived at Dorne, Nymeria had all 10,000 ships burned so her followers would know there was no more running after their new settlement. All of you have heard the name before because, as you all know, this is where Arya got the name for her direwolf. Not only that, but there was also a mention of her in House of the Dragon's first season, during the scene with Rhaenyra and Alicent. HBO most likely threw that scene in there as a way to set up this show, assuming they ever finish it. Once again, HBO already does have a writer for this series, but outside of that, they haven't released any new official announcements. Another show HBO has been developing has a lot of fans excited because it's based on some of George R. R. Martin's other well-known and well-written novellas. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, also known as The Adventures of Dunk and Egg, will be set roughly 90 years before the main show. Now, fans of Game of Thrones can look to Martin's novellas as a roadmap for what should happen in this show. Like I said, set about 90 years before the Game of Thrones series begins, the Dunk and Egg novellas follow the adventures of Dunk, the lowly knight and future Lord Commander of the Kingsguard Sir Duncan the Tall, and his squire Egg, the future King Aegon Targaryen. As Westeros recovers from the Blackfyre Rebellion, which was another war that saw Targaryens fighting Targaryens like in House of the Dragon, Dunk and Egg follow the sprawling landscape, competing in tournaments to earn their daily bread, and often happening upon historical events. It almost sounds like the Westeros version of Forrest Gump. HBO is also developing some animated shows based on the works of George R. R. Martin. On his Not a Blog website, George R. R. Martin said, over on the animated side, well, I'm not allowed to say most of what's happening, except to say that things are moving very fast, and I love some of the art that I'm seeing. And wait, come to think of it, the news leaked several months ago that one of the animated shows would be set in Yi Ti. That's accurate. Our working name for the show is the Golden Empire. And we have a great young writer on that one as well, and I think the art and animation will be gorgeous. I would let all of you know more if I could, but I don't think I can say a word about the other animated shows. Not yet. So it actually sounds like they have 3 or more animated shows in development, although I cannot confirm more than what George R. R. Martin has already said. Now, like the series about the Long Night, HBO was also working on another show set in Flea Bottom of King's Landing. However, that show is no longer in development. As of right now, it seems their main focus is on Jon Snow, the Sea Snake, Nymeria, Dunk and Egg, and the handful of animated shows you just heard about. If I find out any more information, I will let all of you know right away. I'm always looking for new updates every single day. So with that being said, make sure you subscribe so you're always the first to know whenever I release a new video about anything regarding Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, A Song of Ice and Fire, The Winds of Winter, or anything else under the George R. R. Martin umbrella. As always, I want to thank all of you for watching another video. I hope all of you have a great day. I will see you again very soon. Bye.